Thursday. Glad you all can join us on our Thought Leader Thursday webinar series here at Script to Screen. My name is Ken Carey, and I'm co-founder and executive creative director of Script to Screen M2, and we are a direct-to-consumer direct response agency. And we work with the biggest brands in the world, creating direct-to-consumer channels for their businesses. So, you know, one of the things I like to do is get a little chat going on, a little stuff going on and as things get going. So if you would, just kind of in the chat, tell me where you're from. If you play golf, that's a poll question we have. If you play golf, where are you from? And our guest today is John Gonzalez. And John is TaylorMade Golf Company's Vice President of Direct-to-Consumer and Digital. And we had a really nice conversation. He really gave us some really good insights, and I think you'll get the same out of this as well, about why a company like TaylorMade, a big brand like that, goes direct to consumer and what it does for their sales and their brand. And we'll get into that, and we'll be talking about specifics in it, and we can talk about specifics afterwards in some kind of a chat. Remember to ask questions, because I'm going to come back after the webinar is over and answer your specific questions. And like I said, our poll question today is, how many of you watching this webinar play golf? And if you would, just put in the chat where you're from. Okay, so here we go. This is our interview with John Gonzalez of TaylorMade Golf. I'm really excited to introduce my guest, John Gonzalez. John is VP of Direct-to-Consumer and Digital at TaylorMade, and we've worked together most recently on a direct-to-consumer campaign. Welcome, John. How you doing?
Good, Ken. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good. Hey, I like your setup back there. It's nice.
Yeah, you know, we're stuck in a room all day.
Yeah. It's got to look nice, right?
Got to look nice. So,
John, tell me a little bit about what are you responsible for as Vice President of Direct-to-Consumer and Digital at TaylorMade? What does that encompass? Please tell me.
Yeah, Ken. So for us at the TaylorMade Golf Company, that's my role is really to oversee everything that has to do with selling our product directly to golfers, to the end user. So really, that's our e-commerce business globally. All of our websites around the world, they're selling to golfers directly. Also, our digital platform, so our B2B platform that enables all of our retailers around the world to access our products, through our portal that way. And then a bunch of initiatives to do with apps and services and fitting and some things like that we're using technology to enable. So anything around that, and then all of our digital marketing as well.
Right. That digital touch point with consumers, basically.
Any digital touch point with consumers is pretty much what I'm responsible for.
Right.
In my team, yeah.
Globally. So you don't got too much to handle.
No, it's easy. It's a half day work here and there. And,
half day here and there, in between the golf course.
Yeah, and then I go out and play some golf.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about, obviously the direct-to-consumer channel for TaylorMade has really matured through, I'd say probably, when you say from the last 5 years, or would you go further back, and how has that progression really dovetailed with everything that you do in terms of brand and awareness, and how's that work?
Yeah, I think, I've been in and around, e-commerce and selling direct to consumer for most of my career, and I mostly in sports in the license space. I'd say golf has been very slow to evolve as far as kind of adopting digital practices. It's the way that we sell our products. It's our distribution network. We're still very fragmented in a core of our business around green grass, on-course golf shops. So we've been a little slow to evolve. I'd say over the past 5 years, we've really accelerated our digital footprint. And part of that is, one, we know golfers are going to go there and we need to be there in a way.
Right.
But two, I think just consumer behavior has changed significantly. People are, all parts of your life, whatever you do, whatever I do, I'm doing a lot of it digitally. And so I'm used to it. There's no longer this, I don't do things online.
Right.
And golf is very tactile. People want to touch it, swing a golf club, demo it. That always is going to exist. But there's now, people are more comfortable. Just think about the things that everyone out there listening buys online that you would normally go and try at a store or demo, that you just buy sight unseen now because the experience, you're comfortable with it, people are good at it.
Right.
We've accelerated because of that.
What's interesting, you said something about consumer behavior, because that's something that we preach a lot, is that, and especially over the last year, that technology and consumer behavior has finally really dovetailed to, we know what consumers are going to do because they seamlessly go from one platform to the next. So you need to be everywhere, like you said, omnipresent. Purchase comes to your house, all that kind of stuff. So that, and it's like, why wouldn't you do that if you have that opportunity, especially lately, because either we've had to, or people have chosen to purchase that way.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix of both those things, right? Like, you've had to recently, and that has certainly changed things at a very rapid rate. But
yeah,
a lot of us choose to do it that way. Before we just jumped on this call, I needed a sprayer tip for my paint sprayer.
Yeah.
I could go to Lowe's, I could go look at it, I could get in the car. I had 5 minutes before you and I started this, and I went on Amazon and the app, and it was, 45 seconds, it's coming tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And I'm on with my life. So,
yeah.
What are the things that we're going to do for golfers in our space that are going to, it's more time-based. And where are you putting your time and energy, and can we make things better for you as a golfer? That's what we're focused on a lot.
So when you talk about direct-to-consumer in the golf business, and it being relatively new for TaylorMade in the last 5 years, what is it meant to the amount of sales, bottom line? We don't get any secret numbers, but how big of an impact has it made in the business, and do you see that just continuing to escalate?
Yeah, I think, without getting any of the numbers, I mean, it's become a material part of our business, right?
Yeah.
It used to be a nice thing that we did, and we learned, and it was over there in the corner, but it has become a material part of our business in many parts of the world. And I think it's something that we're focused a lot on for top line and bottom line, but also just really understanding the golfer and the things that we can do when we are directly interacting with you or with a golfer.
Right.
We can learn, we can be faster, we can be smarter, and we can build a relationship with the consumer. Golf is a passion sport. They want to interact with our brand, with our athletes, and they want to buy from us. And so I think there's a level of comfort there.
And that really is the key. I think you hit it on the nail on the head. Is having that touch point with the consumer, creating that relationship, because there's no better way for a lifetime value in golf than to continue to have that relationship and talk to those customers and design products to what their needs are versus you trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're having fun with it, and we're creating some products that we probably wouldn't have created in the past, and seeing how people react to it. And it's it's inspired a lot of people within our organization, and I think it's fun. We're all golfers. We love golf, and so we're doing things that we think golfers are going to like.
How does the business mix brand awareness, equity advertising in with direct-to-consumer? How does that work for a corporation like you? And are they just as important together more than ever? Because that's what we're seeing in brands.
Yeah, I don't think the consumer cares about how we think about our marketing mix, right? Like, we're trying to reach the consumer where they are and get in front of them and inspire them, whether it's watching golf on the weekends or the Golf Channel for us, or whether it's when they look they check the leaderboard on the PGA Tour app on the weekends, or if you're putzing around a computer and just surfing the web, and we're going to find you on a couple websites there. I think wherever the golfer is, that's where we need to be media wise. I don't think the golfer cares about how we create our media mix.
Right.
And we're thoughtful about it, but we also understand that people's behavior are different. I mean, this thing is in my hand all day long, and that's the way that I interact with most brands today.
And in some cases, when it comes to equity and brand, as long as you can brand TaylorMade and the product that you're presenting as to be in front of them, and then there's another time where you can do with the Tight Lies and say, here it is, but buy it, right? And click here and buy, and that's how they work together, huh? Yeah,
and for sure. And we're talking about the TaylorMade brand initially here, but really the Adams brand is how you and I got together. And it's a brand that has heritage. It's a brand that's been around for a long time, but it hasn't been in the market in 4 or 5 years. And so when we're thinking about that was a for us, like, let's step away from the way we do things for TaylorMade. We have Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson and Tiger Woods in front of a lot of people with our product in their hands. Different thing on the Adams side. New, a re-entrance into the market for us. We're going to think about that completely differently than we do the TaylorMade brand. And so, how are we going to get in front of consumers? How are we going to build awareness that, hey, we got a product, we're back in business, and this is going to work for you? That was a completely different challenge for us than we deal with day to day.
And is that the reason why you decided to add the Adams Tight Lies, reintroducing it through direct to consumer? What was the reason to go there versus another path?
It made sense on a couple fronts for us. One, and you know this well, the heritage of the Adams brand was a direct to consumer product, and that's how it was introduced into the marketplace, and it was revolutionary back then, and that's how the company began. And part of it was that little bit of nostalgia. Hey, let's recreate that, but also, how are we going to get in front of consumer? How are we going to prove out that this works? Right? We didn't know that we were going to have a product that people were going to want and people were going to love. We thought we did. We didn't know that.
Right.
But before we invest in a retail footprint and going out and get it in salesmen's hands and going out to that vast network, that's a burden we probably didn't want to take from the get-go.
Yeah.
But what can we do that we can get in front of golfers? We know where golfers are. We know what they're doing. How can we get in front of them, show them this product that they're going to like, and do it really efficiently, and kind of prove it out? And that's how we set out through this path.
Right. And that you said something very, very important there, John. And I'd love you to repeat that again. Is about getting in front of your golfers and showing them what this product does versus here's Adams Golf. Totally different, because your consumers are on the Golf Channel. They're paying attention and they want to see something, right? You got to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't a rebranding for us out of the start. It was an introduction of a product that met a need and
right.
We believed, told a story and worked. And so, what's for us, like, how are we going to get that out? And how are we going to get it in front of the people that really can benefit from it?
Right.
So for us, we have an audience in the Golf Channel that's a pretty captive audience, a really targeted consumer that we knew we could go after, and let's tell them about this product. Yes, Adams is tied to it, but let's tell them about the product.
Right.
Hopefully they'll remember the brand, which I think we know that they do. But let's show them what it does and what it can do for them and why they need it. And that was pretty simple.
And that's the reason why you and we chose to do direct-to-consumer short-form commercials, because it gave you the time to explain what it does, why it's doing. There's amazing features to this product that you guys have engineered into it that makes it better than it was before. And then, I mean, how would you otherwise do that if you didn't have the 2 minutes or the 60 seconds, right? That's a tough story to tell, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can tell that story. We do that. We're good at that, but it's a lot of there's a lot of time and energy and effort that goes into telling that to a golfer, getting
right.
it out there, getting it to the golf professional, or getting it to a retailer, and that retailer needs to be educated, or getting it on a website and making sure people get to the website and then click through the video and all that stuff. So we had an inkling that was the right way to go. That was kind of our direction. We want to get on, in front of golfers on the Golf Channel, tell a story. We felt this product told the story. We think that's the best way to kind of really at scale and quickly show that this can be a successful product.
And that's the key, at scale. I mean, once you start doing the digital and the television and you're driving to a specific site for a specific purpose, now you're at scale for a specific ROI, right?
Completely. Yeah, and we were able to, have been able to, see some results and some real significant results, statistically significant and monetarily significant results in a pretty short period of time.
Yeah.
We knew this is going to work or it's not. Right? It's really going to work or it's really not going to work. One of the two.
And glad it was the first one.
Yeah, we think it's the first one. So we're happy with that.
That's fantastic. That really makes me happy because, as you know, I've been in from the inception of this brand, and to see it kind of lightning strike twice is pretty awesome. Like I said, our audience are CEOs, CMOs, founders, and these companies that we talk to either have products or services. From an executive's point of view, like yourself, what advice, what things would you tell other people that are looking to go at scale, go quickly, have a longer story to tell? What are the important factors you've learned that that would be helpful for them in the future?
My background, I think going e-commerce and going digital completely is where I lean, right? Like that's where I would normally go, and that's where I kind of still go. And you and I have had these conversations a couple times. And we said, what if we just did this way? And I remember like, you can do that, and that's fine. Like, and so, I think one of the things that this model and this kind of direct-to-consumer model, and getting your story in front of TV. TV is still impactful. Digital plays a huge role in our lives, and I do go and pick up my phone, and that's where I am, and I have a TV right there, but it's not on right now. But I think digital has a role, but I think if you're trying to really get in front of a consumer and tell a story at a much larger scale in a much shorter period of time, we this TV model that we used to launch this Tight Lies product allowed us to do that. I think we can build. We learned a lot in the first 10 days,
right?
Because of the mass of the TV we got, which we can be efficient in digital, and we're still using digital alongside this, but we've had TV on, we've had TV off, and we can see the difference.
Yep.
There, and digital, you can certainly target, and you can continue to optimize and find your audience. The way we were looking at it, it's just we wanted to learn some stuff really fast and really quickly, so that we could build off of that or shut it down. Quite frankly, that was one of the.
Yeah.
We wanted to learn that in a period of weeks and months, as opposed to a period of a year or a quarter or whatever that was. So if you're looking to do that, I think TV still has there's a large audience. We get a lot of visitors to our website on the TaylorMade side, significant amount of visitors, and the Golf Channel is one of our biggest partners, and the audience there, in pure numbers, is smaller on just a period of time, right? We're getting the right people at the right time to see the message, and that's what we wanted to do.
So the takeaway was that using direct-to-consumer television for Adams Golf was a way to learn something real quick, to dovetail what you're doing in digital, because you said, and I know the numbers, is that you can do well in digital. Can you scale and get the eyeballs? That's a different story. When you layer this DTC television on it, it gives you a broader view of more customers, and then they work harder for each other, right?
Yeah, totally. In combination, they work harder, and you're right. The scale and the amount of people that we can get in front of on TV, we wanted to bring this brand back, as opposed to letting it just kind of trickle into the consciousness. And so we wanted to go this route, and we wanted to go that route. That's how we kind of connected with you.
Yep.
It has allowed us to do a lot more, a lot quicker.
Yep.
And then the digital works harder for us when the TV's there, right? And we've seen that.
Yeah. Like you said, you can turn one off and turn the other off, and you can see the difference.
It's very clear. Absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of setting up a direct-to-consumer campaign when you're using television, and at the end of the day, it's driving people to a funnel, down a funnel to make a decision, and then using that data in digital to maybe find cart abandonments or whatever, all that kind of stuff. But when you're doing that, it's a different model. Talk about how just important the integration of the back end is just as important as getting that message out there. Because I know for sure that brands and clients that we work with says, they say, that sounds great. Let's put a message out there, but really that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more below, right? Talk about that and how important that is.
The marketing side, the message, the commercial, the spot, all the stuff we do, the branding, that's all hard work, but it's, it's good, and it's doing it's doing what it needs to do on that side. But a lot of retail's detail is kind of the thing we talk about a lot. There's so much underneath it as far as execution, from taking the orders to getting making sure that the orders are fulfilled in a quick manner and the customers have a great experience with that. And you've got the inventory, which is another problem that we're to be able to meet the demand,
right,
if it was there. And so there's a lot of complexity around that can be overlooked depending on what your industry is and what you're kind of dealing with. I mean,
right.
Direct to consumer, selling products directly to a consumer, one package at a time, making sure that you are completely satisfied with your purchase, and you get it and your expectations are met, and there are no hiccups in that. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that I think people would say overlook, but don't really think about from the start, right?
Right.
And it's very, very important.
So I'm going to say it for you, but you would recommend, when you're talking about setting up a direct-to-consumer campaign, really, really get your team to understand the back end of it, because it's really, really important, because it's not only about the consumer experience, it's about attribution. It's about knowing what your numbers are, mm-hmm. and knowing how to work with inventory. I mean, if you're running out of inventory, you need to know on the back end, I need to slow it down or pick it up, and so it's really, really critical. And you would say that's a real important thing for executives to understand in their team.
Yeah, I would say that. You did say that very nicely for me, way better than I did. But yeah, I think there's so much that goes into all of that stuff. Yep. That if you have a direct-to-consumer background, I think you largely get that. You've dealt with it. You've felt the pain of it before. You've made the mistakes. You know how to do it. But if you're getting into this for the first time, you're more of a traditional wholesale-based business, which has its challenges. These are a completely different set of challenges. Selling things directly to consumer. A lot more opportunity exists there as well now today. Like obviously the margins and everything are much better. Yeah. Connecting with the consumer, the data you get from all that. Everyone wants that part. What's less desirable is all the work you have to do underneath it to make sure that works, right? Yeah. If you're used to shipping out large pallets or containers or truckloads of things to a retailer and then letting them deal with that, that's one thing.
Right.
But shipping a single product, understanding kind of the inventory that you need and how you need to meet those consumer expectations. You can't be out of stock. It can't be 2 weeks late, or you've lost that customer. Those are really important things that if you're not in that business, be prepared for. Yeah. Again, there's plenty of opportunity when you do get that right to actually.
Feeding into this conversation, we talk about the back end. At the end of the day, as you know, as a marketer, the back end doesn't mean anything if you can't get people to respond to something, right? You could have the best back end of the world, but if people aren't responding, it doesn't make a difference. Tell me about the difference that you learned, even though you have some background in it, but you and your team learned of how important it was to the approach that we took in terms of the creative to drive a consumer to do something versus drive a consumer to know we exist.
Yeah, two different things for us. Like, it's not a muscle that we exercise very much at on the TaylorMade side of the business. Our message and our marketing is geared to a bunch of different desired outcomes. So coming in here and the messaging around this is really about getting you to the website to go figure out whatever piece of information is missing and get yourself down the funnel into the cart to get the product in your hands, which is we're storytellers. We like to we have very high tech product that we love to get interested in, but this kind of direct selling messaging was different for us. And so for the marketing group that was out there with us on the couple shoots that we did, In our team, it was different. I think we asked a lot of questions as to why.
Yeah.
Are we sure we should say it that way? But it's
Yeah.
it's been interesting. We've learned a lot about the differences, the nuances, and just the language and the words, and how you're actually just trying to get someone down a funnel very
Right.
quickly. And you only have so much time to do that, and the messaging and the energy has to be focused on that.
Yeah, and I think it's and I'll be clear to the audience here. And when John says it's different, it's like we're addressing in the creative. We've addressed the problem the consumers are having. We have introduced the features that TaylorMade had, or excuse me, that we have introduced the features that Adams designed and engineered to improve on those problems. Therefore, this is the club that you need in your bag versus look how great this product is. Doesn't it look cool? And there's an image to it. We're like, it's about solving a problem, to your point, getting them into that funnel, finding out what it is, piece of information that they're missing, or they're not missing anything else because they got it all, and they make a purchase. So that process of working with us creatively and creating that message, I know you said it was uncomfortable, and we asked a lot of questions, but at the end of the day, how was that experience working that's with muscles you don't flex often with some people like us?
I'll speak for the group. I think it's it's energizing, right? I think it's something different. I like to learn. I like to experience some new things, and we're trying some new stuff. And so, getting into a space that we don't deal in every day was interesting to us. I think, how does this work? What are the things that we need to do, and are there anything that we can kind of take and utilize elsewhere? It was a different practice. It's a different muscle that we don't exercise a lot. And so for a lot of us and for our marketing team, we continue to do it. We're over there. We're on the website. We're making changes. We're adding things. We're looking at it all the time. We're adding content into the spots. We're doing some other, we're adding some content on top of it socially that we're continuing to do. And, we're now thinking about the Adams brand a lot differently. And intentionally so than the TaylorMade brand, and it's exciting to do some stuff a little bit differently. We learn stuff over there, and the more you learn there, you can apply a few pieces to maybe your other side of the business.
Right. You see how layering on a direct-to-consumer channel to everything else you're doing for another form of commerce for the business, another form of getting data and information, selling a little bit differently. Those are really working in the same direction now versus just having one or the other. The consumer behavior and technology is absolutely saying, wouldn't you say, for companies that sell products and services, that's something you need to be doing together?
100%. I'd be hard pressed. I'm sure there's someone out there that can give me an example, but if you think about it, you're making a consumer product and you're not somehow interacting directly with that consumer, and I would say selling to that consumer, you're missing an opportunity. Think about when you go home and we get off this call, what are you going to go do? If you need something, how are you going to go about that? You're not going to go, I'm going to go drive to the mall and see if I can find it. Or I'm going to go, your behavior is going to start. Probably you're going to get off the call. You're going to get on this. You're going to look, right? You're going to go that route. You're going to get to what you need through a device. And ultimately, because of the way TVs are and the way tracking is going these days, you're going to get that messaging in front of that consumer.
Right.
So, I would say some businesses have been very hesitant. And I talked to a lot of people across a bunch of industries. We're not going to sell. We're not going to sell our consumable goods to directly to consumers. There's not going to be any volume there. All our volume is elsewhere. True, maybe, but the amount of information, the data you'll get from those few transactions or those few interactions with the consumer on your website are going to fuel the rest of your business, and you'll actually get excited about that. You'll start doing some more stuff. There's dozens of examples of that out there. So there's plenty of reason to be doing it. It's not always the monetary, the top line, bottom line reason to do it. but there's plenty of reason to be out there interacting directly with your consumers. You make your product better. You can make your marketing better. You can make a lot of things. Your supply chain better. You can make a lot of things better.
And then having the ability to, wherever they are, like you said, in their journey, we don't know where they are in the buying cycle. We don't know if they're going to get it on their phone or whatever, or digital, whatever. But having a consistent message that is not just, here's our brand, but having a consistent message of, here's a product that can solve your problem that takes a little bit of time, and it just educates them more, which is just different, right?
It's different. The interaction on the consumer side is different, and the reaction on the side of the marketers and the merchants and those folks is different. It's a different information set that you can probably do more with than the stuff that you're dealing with in your normal channels. We've learned a lot. We've made a bunch of adjustments. And I think it's met our expectations as far as what we thought we were going to do from a revenue standpoint and a conversion standpoint. So that was important, but we've also learned a lot. We went into this saying we're gonna learn that this is going to work or it's not. I think we said this at the beginning.
Well, one of the very first things that you said.
Yeah, it's very evident when things aren't going to work, right? Like that's very apparent. Sometimes you think things are going to work and they're not, but it's very evident when they're not. This one, we've learned a lot. And we're very early on, but we're excited about it. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You've been asking me all the questions. So from what are you seeing as, where you sit and as, a company that's powering kind of these direct to consumer things, what are you seeing? What kind of companies are coming to you? What kind of things are coming to you that maybe weren't a year ago or more?
That's a great question. Thank you. You know what we're seeing? We're seeing that businesses they're starting to understand more and more that it's very rare that someone has that deep pocket of cash that can spend a lot of money for brand awareness. There's a handful of them these days. It's just not like it was. So where technology is forcing businesses for accountability, there's no better way with a direct-to-consumer campaign for accountability and ROI to understand if I invest here, how much will I get back, and will it lift my other channels? And that's what we're seeing, John. We're seeing clients say we want to have a tighter relationship with our customer. We have a bigger story to tell. We do know it's omni-channel. We have to be omni-channel, but I don't have oodles and noodles of hundreds of millions of dollars of cash. How do I get those marketing dollars to work as hard as possible so I can get my message out there, create a sale, reinvest it, and lift all my other channels, whether that's Amazon, digital, retail, and that's what we're seeing companies come to us by. How do I get my marketing dollars to work as hard as possible to lift all my channels and have my media pay for itself? That's what we're seeing.
Yeah, interesting. And it's a lot of things that we see as well. I mean, we're not in retail with this product, but we're certainly getting requests from it. We're not on Amazon, but we see that there's searches there.
Yep.
But that's back to kind of the metrics. That's the fun thing every Wednesday morning when we go through with your team at M2 on like here's to the dollar what we spent,
right?
What we're getting back, and kind of just tweaking that a little bit every day.
Yeah.
It's fun for a person who likes kind of the number side of things.
It's and it's just become one of those. You have to be there. You're and the other things that we hear, and I say back to our clients coming to us is that you're in a nice way, but your head's in the sand if you're not paying attention to having to market directly to consumer, create that relationship that's different than a brand equity. Not that that's not important. It is important, but you have to be there that way because some people are going to choose, I want to be spoken to this way. And some people are going to say, I know the brand, I trust the brand, I'm going to do it that way. But you got to talk to people differently. And those two channels can coincide together. Just the difference is there's an ROI that's maybe later on in POS data, and there's one that's right to the minute data.
Absolutely. And that to the minute data can help you a lot inform the stuff that's going to come down the road and just be a little more effective with that. So it's not for everyone. Like for our side of the TaylorMade side of the business, it's not something that we would do at this point. We do it in a different way as far as how we interact with the consumer and get data. But on the Adam side for us, this made perfect sense. We knew this is the way we wanted to do it, and we're getting a lot of information. We now know a lot about the brand that we didn't know 4 or 5 months ago, and it's helping us inform what we do go forward.
Yeah. Now, so last question I have for you is this: is that if I'm a CMO, CEO, founder, and I'm listening to another executive like you, John, and I want to know from you who've walked in your shoes, what do I need to know about direct-to-consumer that I don't know that somebody who's done it successfully can tell me?
We touched on a bunch of things here as far as it's a lot. It's different than what you're doing on if you have a traditional distribution relationship, a wholesale relationship. Consumers are much more fickle. They're going to walk away from you a lot quicker than a trade partner is going to. But I think you got to be really diligent about everything through the funnel. From the messaging, the way you're talking to the consumer, where you're going out and finding those consumers, down to some of the stuff from your supply chain. How are you getting stuff to them? Is it a good experience? Are you getting it to them in a timely manner, and are they able to return it quickly? Are there just a number of things that are much different than what you see on the other side? And so a big hurdle for a lot of folks is they get wrapped up in technology and wrapped up in the website and a lot of design and a lot of things that that you can get wrapped up in if you sit in a room with an agency, and you should spend time on that, but it's not the only thing. There's a lot of stuff underneath that. That's the tip of the iceberg that you talked about. A lot of stuff underneath that you've got to be really good at and pay a lot of attention to, and that's really what matters for the consumer. Yes, you have to have a good experience, a good brand experience, a good message, but all the stuff beneath that's got to be done really well. And that's usually the big miss is I'm going to go start a direct business, or I'm going to take a part of my business and make it direct. I'm going to go do a bunch of creative ads, and I'm going to do a bunch of display ads, and I'm going to make everything look great. I'm going to get this splashy website that's got a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to spend a lot of time and energy there. And really kind of what we're talking about is the nuts and bolts of it. The messaging, why you need this, what purpose it serves. Here's how you go get it. Make that experience really good. And then make sure you get it to them in a manner that's really effective.
Right. So in review, it's understand you're doing something different. So what do other people need to know about direct to consumer? One, understand direct to consumer marketing is different, and quote unquote submit to it, if you will. Stay the course in a direct to consumer strategy. Understand the strategy and stay the course. Don't try to do what you did before and try to change it because it's a different model. And the other one is pay attention to the consumer experience. That's what I got out of those, that John. Those three things that another executive should be thinking about.
Yeah, and I like to kind of frame consumer experience less about how slick the website is and how great that stuff is. That's got to be good. And if you look at Amazon, isn't if you just were to put it up, it's not the best looking web, but it functions and serves a purpose, gets you through. But consumer experience is about getting the product to them, and, having a good experience with that, making sure that whole stuff works, shipping, making sure the order gets in time, all that stuff. That's the stuff that I think a lot of people miss in the direct-to-consumer side is you have one chance with that consumer to have a really good experience and make sure that experience is great all the way throughout.
And there's this thing called social media and reviews that will kill you or help you, right?
Absolutely. You will know right away.
From a global brand like TaylorMade, and then has this other brand, Adams Golf. A lot of companies that are watching this are saying, we're a brand. I want to make sure my brand is not bastardized. I'm afraid that because there's this myth like, oh, it's going to turn into a chia pet or something like that. How would you get people overthinking that? Because it is
from a brand perspective, people
Mhm.
just can't get there. But if they can get over that, there's really a pot of gold there.
I'm surprised it took to the end of this discussion to get to that one, because that was one of the things that we talked about from the beginning.
Yeah.
We were really conscious of that. We had to step way outside of our comfort zone initially to kind of start the conversation. But what we did, you talked about why we hired you guys and why we kind of what we did in the process. I mean, we made sure we were still protecting what the brand was and the way that we wanted it to be perceived, and so we protected that, and we were very conscious of that. And you guys were great about here's what we're trying to do, here's what we're trying to achieve. This is what I want this to look, and we kind of layered on. Okay, like if we ever got too far out of it, which I don't think we ever really did. Like we never got out of our comfort zone.
No.
And you can do it in a way that is true to your brand.
Yeah.
Right. But true to your brand in a way that you're talking to the consumer about the problem, about the solution, and you're using different words. Right. It's like we're just using different words and different tone.
Yeah.
But they can still be our brand tone. I mean, we haven't gone too far from that, but we created this Adams brand tone, and it's just got a bit of a more direct sell to it. And
Right.
It's still our brand. We can
Right.
still be very conscious of that and make sure that it fits our brand.
Right. You don't need to be afraid of it. Just pay attention to it.
Well said.
Yeah. I want to thank you very much for your time, John. Thank you very much. I think the information that you provided for our audience is really, really important, because they have to be thinking these things, and to hear from someone like yourself who is in charge of a global brand and another brand under it is really, really important. It gives a lot of credibility to the direct-to-consumer model, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Ken. Thanks for the time. The journey with you guys has been great. We're continuing down that path. Like I said, we've learned a lot. We've been curious about the space, and we'll continue to learn about it. And so it's been fun for us as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining our Thought Leader Thursday webinar series and our interview with John Gonzalez. As you can tell, he was a wealth of information, and a lot of the questions that we started talking through with TaylorMade as we started this program has a lot to do with some of the questions that you all asked. And I want to get into these questions because they're really specific and relative to this. But the interesting thing about the direct-to-consumer campaign for TaylorMade, and since the launch, is that we had a good problem where inventory ran out really quickly because it was very, very successful on television. Television was driving the digital, and those two combined got them in a situation where we had to really kind of level out our media spends because clubs were moving really well. And also it affected their retail. And for the Adams Tight Lies product specifically, which is the brand under TaylorMade, is a little bit different than the flagship, if you will, TaylorMade brand, because they sell more at what they call green grass. And that's at the golf course or small little retail outlets, not the big retailers. Eventually they'll probably go there. But again, this was a test for them to really generate and invigorate the brand. So it was very, very successful. And because digital and television work together, it really, really scaled. So I just want to get to a couple of questions. And there was a question we got from Eric. And Eric was asking, how does a DTC campaign change the pricing of your products from your perspective and your consumers? Well, Eric, it's interesting. D2C should not really change that pricing. I mean, your cost of goods are your cost of goods, but it shouldn't change your pricing to your consumer. D2C is really about offer-based, because you don't want to undersell your retailers, and you've got to keep everybody happy. So it's about really the offer. So you want to keep the pricing pretty much the same, but the offer is going to be different. For example, you might be able to do a multi-pay in direct to consumer that you couldn't do. Let's just say if you're selling it at retail for Target, you can't get them to do multi-pays, but you can in direct to consumer. But through the funnel, through the website, the microsite that you're creating to sell this product, you could actually get a single pay during some different incentives, adding some add-ons and incentives to get a single pay. So it's not really affecting the price of the product to the consumer, because that really needs to be the same for everywhere. But in order to really track the success that you're having in direct to consumer, you want to have a different offer that's different than everybody else. So you can say specifically, this offer, this campaign drove this much revenue. So again, it's not really relative to the price, but it's what's important is the price should be the same, the offer should be different. And that's the great thing about direct to consumers. You can test offers live, you can make tweaks as on the fly, you can A/B test, all these types of things you can figure out as you're doing your program by driving them to a site. And if you happen to do the price on TV, you'd have to tweak that a little bit. But the beauty is that the price should be the same. The offer is what's really, really different. And that's a huge, huge advantage for you. So the next question I have here is from Renata. And Renata, I want to thank you very much for your question, because you asked some really detailed questions and I thought they were very insightful. But specifically, I'm going to do a little bit of answering that. But with your permission, I definitely want to, have someone contact you, because there's a lot of variables to your question that we want to really, really make sure that we're adding value to your questions, and you get a real good understanding of what our perspective is and our experience tells us specifically to your issue. But the point you asked was, and I'll just read the question. She says, compared to digital direct-to-consumer sales, what kind of volume scale do you experience when you use direct marketing via TV? Okay, so this is an interesting question, Renata, because it really comes down to a couple of things. And what we say a lot is it depends. It depends on what your key performance indicators are and what you're deciding from the very get-go. Okay, that makes a big deal. It makes a difference on what's your media spend. Is it national? Is it local? That has a lot to do with it. And, typically our clients look at about 1/3 of their media budget is digital, the rest is television. So, it's not so much about volume of sales. The volume of sales has everything about doing, if you're meeting your KPIs, your media spend is going to go up on both these platforms and your volume scale is going to increase. So I can't really answer specifically because it's all about your KPIs. And that all goes down to what's your cost of goods, what's your allowable in media, and I'm sure you understand those terms. But I could tell you this, just from the example we just shared on TaylorMade, the minute you add television onto your digital campaign, you are getting more eyeballs, you're getting more opportunities. And the biggest difference, Renata, is that it's storytelling when it comes to television. Digital is an impulse. You got to get them somewhere. You can tell them a little bit more about it if they're interested in staying on long enough to read your website and to go through all that information. But television, you're capturing their attention, and you can tell the entire story about what your product does, how is it different, what is the problem it solves, what are other people's experiences. So you see how I'm just by explaining that, I'm weaving in this storytelling, and then therefore you have a much more qualified consumer, a qualified customer who may want to buy based on that information. So, and it also helps your digital because you're going to retarget those people who saw television and maybe clicked on a social media ad or some kind of digital ad, and it's going to be that reminder. So I can't really tell you exactly how it affects the sales, but I can tell you when you layer them together, you're going to spend more on media. Again, depends on if it's going to be national or local. And if you're meeting your KPIs, your demand for product is going to go up, and that's for sure. And that affects your other question about, forecasting product for distribution. Again, Renata, it's about once you start seeing the results coming from the layering of digital and television, you're going to be able to understand if you're meeting your KPIs, what is your media spend allowable? How much you can control that media spend that will control the amount of inventory that you have. If you want to sell more inventory faster, you pick up your media spend as long as you're meeting your KPIs. If you are running out of inventory, you want to bring down that media spend, keep visibility, keep branding, keep storytelling, but you can get your inventory under check, and I know specifically what happens is you're going to have to order new product. It's going to have to come from overseas, or it's going to have to your factory in the United States, wherever it is you're having your product made. And you know those outcomes. You know how long it takes for those products to get to your warehouse. So that's another beautiful thing about direct-to-consumer using television and digital is you can really monitor that, which will affect your kind of projections when it comes to your retail, when it comes to your distribution and your what specifically you asked about your fulfillment, because I understand you want to be prepared in your fulfillment. You want to be able to have enough product on hand, and at the same time you want to be able to know when to go get more product. But the beauty is you can control your spend based on where your inventory is. We do that all the time with our clients. I hope that was a good answer for you, but we'll specifically get to you with some more stuff. And Renata, actually, you asked another question here, and then I'm going to get to Jill's question. She says, how do you convince the C-suite non-marketers that budget for D2C via digital does not equal budget for D2C via TV, and how do you overcome the sticker shock? Well, I would say that the answer to that question is there is an upfront investment. There's no doubt about that. But you're talking about, and I did a little research on your product while we were on, while the webinar was going, and I understand what your product is. So you have to look at it as an opportunity of how many more eyeballs are you going to get to tell your story. Okay, and I guarantee you, depending on the proper media buys for what you're doing with your product, you're going to get a heck of a lot more eyeballs. You're going to get a heck of a lot more storytelling. You're going to get a heck of a lot more informed consumers that might want to make that purchase right then and there. So that's an investment. And I wouldn't say sticker shock, and I understand that may be the term that you have to deal with in the C-suite, because I totally get that. But it's an investment. We have so many clients that start on digital and they have a nice business on digital, but they have not been able to scale. I can't tell you how many times we've heard that from companies, that we just can't scale on digital because you keep spending the same money on the same eyeballs. You get it. And there's only so many people that are going to be clicking on your ads and retargeting. There's only a certain amount of people that you can do with that, where television changes that specifically, and you can get even more granular. So just like you can on digital, you can get very specific audiences, and you can also get very specific audiences on OTT and connected television, as well as linear television. And direct-to-consumer and linear could be 60 seconds, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 3 minutes, which is a full break, which is awesome for your product. And we think a full 28 minute and 30 would be even better for your product. But them all working together is the ability to tell a story, reach more eyeballs. And when you're doing that, you're branding your business while you're making sales. So I would say, and the answer to your sticker shock question, Renata, is that no other opportunity can you get like direct to consumer, where you can actually sell products either get to a point where your KPIs are breaking even, or preferably higher, where you're profitable, but you're branding at the same time to so many different eyeballs. That's the huge part of it. And that's an investment, but that's an opportunity not to be looked at as sticker shock. You cannot, well, let me take this back. It's not that you cannot, it's much more difficult to really brand and get a lot of eyeballs just on digital. You're going to get much more on television, and when they're working together, you're going to get a really consistent flow of information and consumers and conversion based on your KPIs and your media spends. So I would answer that question is, it's not a sticker shock question. It's about investment, and it's about investing in your business that's going to grow and scale and brand. If sticker shock is a term for growing and scaling a brand and making profitability at the same time, I just don't think those two terms match up. It's not sticker shock at that point. It's an investment, and it's a really, really good investment when it works. So I hope that answers your question. Let me get to Jill. Jill asks, what's your experience selling your DR products comparing broadcast TV to the internet? So Jill, it's kind of the same answer is, again, we know that when we are doing digital and television at the same time, our clients are spending a third of their budget on digital and the rest of it's on television. So there's only so much of an ecosystem you can reach on digital before you start spending good money to chase bad opportunities, because you keep spending more and more and more for the same eyeballs and you haven't converted. That's just a process of reaching the same audiences and trying to tweak it and trying to tweak it and trying to tweak it. But when you get to television, again, you have all those other benefits. You can storytell, you can layer that on with digital, they can cross-reference, all those types of things. So it's not about how much more you can expect. It's about setting your key performance indicators, working television and digital at the same time, seeing what those results are bringing at that when you got that campaign going in both on digital and television at the same time, and then you can start looking about, how many more are we selling on television versus digital. So it's not a flat out answer. It's about what are your media what are your ad allowables, what are your key performance indicators, and once you start a test, you can tell exactly right away. We've known for many of our clients that they do X amount on digital, and when they add television, they 2x, 3x the amount of products. But that's not I can't say that as a blanket comment, because those are based on the key performance indicators given to us and us putting together our financial models and able to give them a really good understanding of the business to sell those types of products. So there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of depends and all those types of scenarios to these questions, and they're good questions. But like I said earlier with Renata, we'll reach out, and because I think it deserves a deeper conversation for you, and we'd be glad to answer those questions, because we understand being in a position at a company, and you have to talk to the C-suite to try to help build the business and what you want to do, but you got to come in with some realistic information. You got to come in with some financial modeling. So really, it's a business. It's a business decision. It's a business case at the end of the day. This is all business. It's not about marketing and selling as much as it is about business and how they work together to grow, scale, and to really build your brand. So that is the rest of our questions. I appreciate that. Listen, thank you very much for joining our webinar series. I really, really appreciate it. It gives us an opportunity to give so many different opportunities to talk about different clients, different scenarios, answer a bunch of questions, because we understand these are big decisions, but I think we all understand direct to consumer is exploding. And what we went through the last 12, in some cases 16 months, has only accelerated what was going to happen anyways. So seeing this as a part of an opportunity to add onto your marketing, to grow your other channels, to create a whole other channel and a relationship with the consumers is really the future of where marketing and selling is going. It's not my opinion, it's not theory, it's actually fact. So I'm going to plug our next webinar series on Thought Leader Thursday. We're going to be talking with Mike Ambergy, and Mike Ambergy is the CEO of Adaptive Health. And I'm sure you have seen, if anybody's watching any television, whether it's ESPN or other news channels or anything outdoorsy, you've seen the commercials for Nugenics and Frank Thomas, and that campaign has been extremely successful for them for many years, extremely successful for us working together for many years. And we're going to talk about, how do you do everything to get your consumers' attention to get them to consider your product, get into a trial, buy your product. You have to come at them in every single direction, every possible way. And television has always been the huge driver for them. And how they integrate their digital strategies with that is even more impressive. But I can tell you, as it relates to the last questions, when television is on all cylinders for Nugenics, their sales are tremendously helpful. If it's just digital, it's not as. Television drives it all, and Mike's going to get into that. And Mike is just an amazing marketer, really, really smart at what he does, and it'll be a great conversation. And I think that you'll learn from not only like people like John, but from Mike, they have done it for almost 30 years in different ways with different products, different companies, and has been successful everywhere he's landed. So anyways, that's our Thought Leader Thursday webinar next month. Until then, thank you very much. If you have any questions, we'd love to follow up with you, and make it a great day. And as we're all thinking about what's coming up, happy Memorial Day and have a wonderful weekend.